You're listening to Unjiggered, a bartender podcast where we interview highly successful bartenders about their careers, lives, and the passion of bartending. This week we caught up with Maxim Schulte, head bartender of the American bar at the Savoy. We talk about his start in a nightclub in Hamburg, working in Saudi Arabia with non-alcoholic cocktails, his experience in working in Mozambique hospitality, and now his position, of course, of head bartender of the American bar. With this podcast, we want to peel back the mask and discover just how the greats really became the greats, so sit back and enjoy.
My name is Maxim Schulte, originally from Germany and now working in the American bar as a head bartender.
Thank you so much for finding the time from your busy schedule to be here with us today.
No, thank you for having me.
I know it's Formula One season here in Singapore, so you've got a lot of fast cars around.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, free training is over, first one. Second one, I hope I can still peak a bit, and then the shift has to start. But I think I looked where they set up the screen, it's right in front of me, so I'm not going to miss anything.
So we have quite a lot of ground to cover, so let's get right into it.
Sure.
First of all, how did you get into bartending?
Yeah, quite an unusual way. Unusual way, you can't say that. But so when I was 18, or before I was turning 18, I wanted to figure out, I needed some extra cash. Obviously, I was still in high school and need some money on the side. And not far away from my home, in Hamburg, so a bit south, so in the countryside, there was this nightclub that was open Fridays and Saturdays. So for me, that was perfect, to start a bit, I don't know, like serving some beers, some long drinks or whatsoever. So I started there actually as a barback, sort of just refilling fridges, clearing glasses from the floor, and, all the dirty work basically that has to be done every single day. And got really into sort of that, lifestyle work, if you want. You have a lot of fun guests around you, some also not so fun guests around you, but it's a great environment. The team was really funny there. And after a year, I think, I started working in that small cocktail bar that they had. The cocktails were, well, I would say pretty awful. But sort of that's what started me and thought, I think I might want to pursue that a bit longer. But then I did a sort of 2 degrees in hospitality management. But in Germany, when you start working in a hotel and you do your degree, you would have to do a 2.5 to 3 year sort of training. You go to school, to hospitality school, and work same time. I have to go through all the departments. And it was quite clear that I wanted to stay in F&B, and the bar was where I immediately found passion for it.
So you think you're a hotel person per se?
I never worked in an alone standing bar, really, besides that weird countryside nightclub that I started in. So I was always working in hotel bars.
What is it that attracted you to, what is it that you like about hotel bars?
I think it's great that you have a bit of this, I don't want to say intimate, but quite close relationship to especially regular guests of the hotel, and there are plenty of alone standing bars that do amazing service, which you definitely could compare to a 5-star hotel service. But it's always that little bit special, I think, when you walk in a hotel. If you walk into the plaza, or if you walk, for example, into the Savoy or into the Claridge's, and you're in this beautiful lobby, and I don't know, it has always sort of made me a bit more excited to work in a place like that.
What was your first luxury hotel experience?
It was a 4.5-star design hotel, but that was the one I started working in Hamburg. So I did my apprenticeship, so my training there. Was the George Hotel in Hamburg, close to the Ulster, massive lake in Hamburg, if anybody has ever been. Really nice design hotel, sort of modern but a bit old school English style, if you want. And beautiful small restaurant, Italian restaurant, and just a stunning bar, a little bit of a rooftop bar as well, whenever there was good weather, And the service level was, I think, very, very high. A lot that I learned there I used throughout my entire career. And I always think back how my manager would have done it at that point of time. And a really, really, really great team. I learned there loads.
We know you very well from your contributions to the scene here in Asia. When did you decided that Asia was going to be the next destination for you?
When I was in Switzerland, doing my bachelor in hospitality management, I thought, I'm doing this international degree now, so I want to use it internationally. So I wanted to go somewhere, and I had to make a decision: do I want to maybe go Americas, or do I want to see Asia? And I really did a career move, which I thought is good for me, because Asia seemed at that point of time to give you quite a fast learning curve and a fast career growth. And, most of the hotels around the world are built still in Asia. So I thought, yeah, that's the way to go. And so I chose I tried to get into Hong Kong, because I thought I've never been to Asia, actually, at that point of time. So I thought Hong Kong might be a bit like, Asia for beginners, Asia for dummies, because everybody speaks English and it's a common tongue there. And, I thought that might be a good place to start.
It's the same thing for Singapore, isn't it?
Yeah. So it was Singapore, Hong Kong, and then everybody was like, nah, Singapore, the visas are quite difficult, try Hong Kong. So I applied, I think, in every 5-star hotel in Hong Kong. And what came back to me with a training. So I was allowed to do an F&B training in the JW Marriott. Yeah, and that's basically how I ended up there.
How was life in Hong Kong at the time?
Quite challenging. Was very new to me, first time living outside of Europe. I was earning 6,000 Hong Kong dollars.
How much is that?
That was, at that point of time, 600 euros, roughly.
What?
Yeah.
How did you pay for rent?
Yeah, that was like impossible. I was sort of lucky at that time. I moved there with my girlfriend now ex-girlfriend, that I got to know in university, and we got together there, and she was from Hong Kong, so her parents had an apartment there, which very fortunately we were allowed to use. Otherwise, I would have possibly not gone there, because with 6,000 Hong Kong dollar, you can't even afford public transport, really.
That's crazy, yeah?
Yeah, it's so expensive. And it got even more expensive now. I mean, that's 2013 I arrived in Hong Kong. It's way cheaper. Now it is ridiculous.
Yeah, and like I've seen where the places where some of our colleagues live there, and they're like incredibly small.
I mean, yeah, it is really tiny. I think Singapore has a bit of a better sort of value for money. I think you pay here obviously high rents, but you get a bit more for it. Yeah, I think
me and my girlfriend, we actually pay more or less the same amount of money we used to pay in London, but we got a much larger flat.
London is not cheap.
Yeah, London is brutal. Yeah, but in London we had a room in a flat, while here we have a flat with 2 rooms. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and so how long were you work for JW Marriott for?
I was there on a 6 months internship in F&B, and I actually had secured myself a position for management training, but they could not extend the visa. It got rejected by the government 4 times. So I was there for 6 months, and then I waited another 2.5 months actually after that for sort of that they get this visa approved, which they never got. So I said at a certain point, look, I can't wait any longer. I don't have money anyway, but it doesn't get better by not receiving any salary as well. Mm-hmm. So I have to move on somehow, can't wait. And then the regional office got me a job in Bangkok, also as a trainee again, which you earn even less in Bangkok.
Life.
Yeah, fortunately, during my time there, I asked to get put into a team for reopening a restaurant. So they've renovated the JW Steakhouse and made it into a project called Flint. And I said, look, I want to be at the bar there, where I met Bryson, which is quite a Hong Kong legend. Mm-hmm. And he sort of took me under his wing and showed me a lot, obviously taught me a lot, and got me into the Hong Kong bar scene really fast. Like going out one night with Bryson, you know everyone really. He gets stopped every 10 meters on the street. And then, yeah, luckily the regional office put quite a lot of attention on there, and they sort of saw, the boy wants to work, I guess. And then they said, look, we have something, there's an outlet in Bangkok, brand new, we really need a bit of support there. there's a good guy, Blake Walker, who can teach you quite a fair bit. So why don't you go there? Started again as a trainee in Bangkok then. And sort of worked then my way up from there.
What was Blake's position at the time? Because Blake works just here in the JW Marriott as a food and beverage director at the moment, doesn't he?
Yeah. At that point of time, he was director of beverage and bars in that hotel in Bangkok, in the Marriott in Tonglo. But also, I think at that point of time, he was a bit part-time Asia Pacific director of beverage and bars. So he did a lot of traveling and started sort of that role that he afterwards in full-time had. So I think we worked a year together in Bangkok. And then he started in Hong Kong full-time in the regional office as the director of beverage and bars.
So he's been around for a while, hasn't he?
Yeah. I think he started in Bangkok in 2013, I believe.
That's great.
So sort of the same time when I started in Hong Kong, he started in Bangkok, I believe. Yeah.
What made you move from Bangkok?
The work environment there was very challenging.
In what respect?
That outlet was... it's a rooftop terrace, 4 stories. It was at that point of time already busy as hell. We reached a staffing level, I think the lowest point was 38%. It was so intense, the work. And the hotel, unfortunately, sort of failed to get the right support, really. There was a wave of resignations. We couldn't fill the positions, and there was some conflicts with the ownership. It was a tough school. I'm very grateful for that, though, looking back at it, because I learned a tremendous amount. And if somebody tells me, an 8-hour shift is really hard work, then I say, okay, try to do a 12-hour shift at 45 degrees with a suit on, doing 1,200 covers, then you know what's really busy, It was a great experience. The team there was absolutely stunning, my bar team, and culturally you learn so much. I mean, for sure by now, working with different cultures just makes you grow as a person so much. And it was a really, really good year. Really intense, but really good year. Anyway, but I moved because I also got an offer. So the opening GM of that hotel that I worked 4 months with, I think, and then he left. He moved to the Ritz-Carlton in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. Supposed to be there, the opening hotel manager. And he came around the corner and said, look, do you want to work in Saudi Arabia? And I was like, no. Why? You don't have alcohol there. I'm really into bars, And then we had an hour-long conversation on the phone, and he was like, look, we have, I think, an amazing opportunity here to actually turn a culture around when it comes to non-alcoholic beverages. And he made that offer sound really attractive. And then I thought, you know what, actually, that sounds quite cool. Definitely worth an experience. And I thought really career, I'm ticking so many boxes. I'm ticking pre-opening of a 5-star luxury hotel. I'm ticking Ritz-Carlton. So I'm moving from Marriott up to Ritz-Carlton. And I'm moving up a position. And I get Middle East experience. So it was just 4 boxes that I could tick with one move. And I was like, you know what, I think let's do that. Resigned. Got then told that, unfortunately, the opening is postponed by 9 months. And I'm like, oh, that's not cool. So I was basically in Bangkok without a job, not knowing when the next one would start. And then sort of was fishing around what else was there. Fortunately for me, a former professor from the university in Switzerland needed some help for a project that he was doing in Mozambique in Africa. He was like, hey, you can come work with me. F&B, I need a lot of help training the people here. You stay as long as you can. And whenever that thing is opening, you just move out there, which I then did. And that was an amazing experience as well.
How long did you work there for?
Oh, I think it was 8 months.
What were the challenges you had in Mozambique? Because that sounds like a very challenging market, does it?
Well, I mean, there is really no market. If you think about it, it was for Anantara, so Anantara Avani, that group. And, they had 3 resorts in Mozambique, 1 in the south, 2 up north. The north is Pemba. That is a city that has, I think, 3 or 4 roads that is an actual road and not just sand. It's the 3rd poorest country on the planet. Over 75%, I think, of the population is illiterate. It's crazy. You couldn't start with, this is a Cabernet Sauvignon and this is a Merlot. You said, that's red wine and this is white wine. What's the difference? And then you try to explain. Like, it's a whole nother level. And you have very different challenges there. Like, your main challenge is theft, is people getting malaria and they can't come to work. Like, they call you that they're sick, not because they have a flu, because they're close to dying. That's quite, to grasp that, to understand that at the beginning, it's like, okay, sure, you're sick. Like, go to the hospital, get some malaria pills, see you when you're ready. Not just I have a flu.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is, but it was very weird at the beginning. But like to everything, you get to be used to it, really. But, the country is beautiful and the people are amazing. They're so friendly. So again, what an experience. It was good for me as well because I had to basically work out this entire training program for a new opening island resort and train the guys. And, building these foundations of giving a good training and, getting the feedback from the people and see actually that they sort of picked something up. That was amazing, especially because I was really young at that point of time.
So 9 months in, 9 months later, you managed to land your job in Jaffa, you said?
It was supposed to be Jeddah, but then that hotel was a mystery when that will ever open. So basically that hotel manager...
So did they open eventually or not? Really?
Yeah, but when I left Saudi Arabia. So even 1.5 years working then in Riyadh, in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Riyadh, they were still not open.
So that's the thing with openings, like sometimes you quit for an opening and then you end up having to wait an ungodly amount of time.
It was, in total, it was 2.5 years.
So is it open now?
Yeah, it's open now. Oh, well, I guess it's still open. So anyway, he transferred to Riyadh because they needed a GM because the GM there was leaving. So he was sort of the interim GM and said, look, whatever we wanted to do in Jeddah, we can also do here. And then we started. It was a rough first 6 months. You're trying to implement a bar concept. And, we're not talking about virgin pina coladas. We're talking about really complex non-alcoholic drinks. Not having seed label Acorn or something around, you have to do everything yourself. It was 7 outlets, 6 drinks per menu. It was massive. A team that has never seen a cocktail shaker before or a jigger. I think in the entire place there was 1 bar spoon. You can't buy bar equipment in Saudi Arabia. And this is where the challenge...
You can't buy it? Like,
there is no bar equipment. They have no need for it. Because
it makes sense, I
they
guess.
don't do cocktails, really. And so we got stuff flown in from the US, from Canada, from Europe, like from everywhere. And that was a big challenge to get equipment. Try to find a soda siphon in there.
Impossible.
Yeah, came from Dubai, So, for example, I wanted to have nitro coffee on tap. You can't get a tap in Saudi because it basically displays beer. And that sort of shows alcohol. So you can't get a tap, even if you would put coffee in your keg. So, there are like all sorts of challenges that you have to sort of work around. And you're waiting 3 weeks for an answer and then say, nah, impossible. So, man, how are we doing this? So luckily, I worked with a consultant for non-alcoholic beverages. He does everything, but he's a specialist for non-alcoholic beverages. His name is Michael Eistedt. He has a company called The Herbal. Brilliant guy. Worked for Gorgeous Group a long time, which is, huge, pretty big. Same did Blake Walker, by the way. Mm-hmm. And he came with boatload of weird ingredients as well. I've never heard about these kind of stuff before. Very botanical, herbal stuff, distillates, high absolutes, resins from trees and stuff. The recipes were incredible. So I had to get all this stuff together, basically get the team sorted out, and then he came and did some training with us as well. And sort of we built then on top of that. So we opened then an outlet afterwards as well, where then I did the recipes. And I still, until today, use ingredients that we use there because they're just so unique. Like what you can achieve with an aniseed and a fennel absolute or oil, like it's incredible. You can basically one of the drinks was basically tasting like a non-alcoholic Pernod with juice and soda. Just stunning.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean you can do. There's so many ways of using flavor. We did so many honeys, differently infused with resin, with frankincense, we smoked sort of an Arabic iced tea. We smoked with bahur. So what they use, to, you can see this maybe when you're in Dubai or somewhere, and they, the gentlemen, they've got the smoke under their, I don't know how's it actually called. The rats bandana over the head. I don't want to be disrespectful. I just don't know the name. So we smoked drinks with that, and it's just, it was great. So much training, so much quality control, and I think this is where I really developed that eye for every single thing has to be always perfect, and tasting every ingredient all the time, and basically we're just walking around, tasting everything every single day, training back, what's this, here and there. It was a massive task, but 1 year in, it was pretty smooth. The guys were doing really great. And now it became such a huge business that they do outside caterings.
No way.
Like it's massive. I think they hired people just to do prep.
But you mentioned 7 outlets. How big was the hotel?
It's a massive 550-room palace. So it's called the Ritz-Carlton Palace.
Okay.
Built by the royal family. Is right opposite of the diplomatic quarters. So you have anything that comes into Saudi Arabia, which is a politician, will stay there.
Is this the hotel where they locked people up?
Yeah, it was turned into a prison later on, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was luckily gone by that time, but it was then the royal prison, yeah. It's now back open as a hotel, but it was, short time it was a prison.
That must have been quite a brutal time to work in there. Can you imagine, like, working in a 5-star hotel prison?
Yeah, and you're dealing with the royal guard.
Yeah.
I mean, the prisoners are all princes,
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're quite well-behaved prisoners. But, you have like 200 royal guards basically flooding your lobby and your restaurants. And there is nobody from outside.
That must have been mega stressful.
Yeah.
Anyway, at some point you decided to seek more challenges. And is this when you moved to Macau?
Yeah, lifestyle in Saudi Arabia is not that easy as a bachelor. As a single male. Most of the restaurants you can't go because they only have family and female sections. It's, segregated.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that is a bit tricky, obviously. There is quite a language barrier when you live there. English in general is not bad, but there's also a lot of places where you just can't go because you can't speak Arabic. And yeah, it was after 1.5 years I really thought, I think it's time to go somewhere else. I wanted to go back to Asia, and at that point of time I made the decision that I want to be in charge of one outlet and try to achieve something with that outlet, basically leading that outlet into something. I was searching a bit, and then again Mr. Blake Walker came along and said, look, there's this beautiful bar in Macau. Why don't you go over and visit Hong Kong, see some friends, quickly pop over to Macau, have a look at that bar, and if you like it, you go for it. And the bar in Macau is beautiful. The Ritz-Carlton bar in Macau is stunning. So I fell immediately in love with the place, and thought, I think there is something that we can do here. I think there's something we can achieve. Not knowing about the Macau bar market, because I thought, for sure, it's not like Hong Kong, but it's really close to Hong Kong, so it can't be that far away in terms of drinking culture, which was obviously a big mistake, because it is very different. Yeah, but I wanted to come back to Asia, and that just seemed to be a perfect move, staying with the company, having this beautiful bar in a stunning hotel as well, close to friends in Hong Kong. It seemed like, makes sense, let's go.
So Macau is like the Chinese version of Vegas on steroids. Am I right? Like in terms of like gambling and...
It is the gambling capital of the world.
Uh-huh.
I think they do 6 to 7 times more revenue than Las Vegas. And it's all about gambling there. You have Las Vegas is more about the entertainment. It's fun. Gambling is displayed as fun. In Macau, gambling is serious business. Like you go on the gambling floor, there's not like people shouting and screaming and like having drinks. No. They sit there and they gamble.
Hardcore gamble.
Hardcore. Yeah, so in that case, very different. Of course, you have your nightclubs and, the nightlife entertainment is there. But it's not even close to other places in Asia or all the world.
So the majority of your clientele in Macau was Chinese?
Funny how no. Because when the gamblers actually then do celebrate a win, or they have to drink because they lost too much, then they prefer more private rooms. Our bar didn't have a private room, so we did not get too many mainland Chinese. We got more the people who live in Macau. So we got a lot of the expats that live in Macau and work there, and then Macanese, and tourists that come from Hong Kong. I would say that was our main clientele.
Did you find it challenging to adapt to the culture?
Well, I've experienced sort of the Chinese culture before when I was in Hong Kong. That was not really new to me. What was really new to me is, the masses. You go through the shopping malls, the casinos, and so on, and it's just thousands of people. That was a bit new to me, and it is very loud, obviously. But no, I think I think Macanese and Hong Kongese fairly close. I think they're quite similar.
What was the brief around the bar? What was the main concept, and how did you implement it?
So when I arrived, the menu was a bit. It was nice drinks, but a bit all over the place. I think what the bartenders like to do. They didn't have a manager there for a really long time, which obviously never really helps. So at the beginning, I thought, okay, I want to change the menu format, but I just don't have the time and the resources now. We need to attack very fast, and we need to put a couple of drinks together, 20 drinks, that actually reflect what people want to have. So I analyzed the sales report over the last year and saw that I think the most sold drink after gin and tonic was mojitos. But sort of they've said, we are a gin-focused bar with like 25 gins or something. So we have a gin-focused bar, and they had this gin and tonic trolley where you come to the table and then you get your nice, gin and tonic in a balloon glass like in Spain and so on. So that was the bar. The bar was known for that within Macau. So I thought, okay, cool. Let's do a couple of drinks. So basically twisting a couple of drinks, twisting a Negroni because that was a top seller as well. We did a gin-based sort of mojito version. Obviously a bit more shishi in there, not just gin, mint and lime. But trying to give the guests what they ask for, basically, just as a signature. And then I said, okay, we are famous for our gin card, but then other bars around town were trying to do the same. So I was like, okay, how can we put a stop to that? So I just bought 150 gins.
150?
Yeah, more.
How did you go about sourcing them? What was the main criteria?
So first, I got, I think it was 50 or 60 gins in that were all available on the market, just like across
just go
the
buy
pond.
and get it. Yeah,
literally just go buy, get it. So that was really fast. And then I sourced, I think 70 gins or 60 gins with 2 local suppliers. And I said, okay, these gins are not available in Asia. I need them. So get them for me from Europe, from Africa, from the States, from wherever they were produced and sold. Said I need 2 bottles each. And I need some really rare stuff. I need some, booze from the 60s and so on and so on.
So you also had some vintage spirits?
Yeah, vintage gin. Like we focused on vintage gin. We didn't have vintage Campari or something. And I said, look, now... we have a couple of years peace and quiet with challenging us on our gin selection. And that worked really a treat because, our average check was through the roof because obviously you can charge more for these rare gins and so on. Average check was through the roof. Actually, the amount of gin and tonics we sold in percentage went back because people really enjoyed our cocktails, so the cocktail sales went up. Wine sales dropped basically to a minimum. So it was pure gin and tonic and cocktail bar, which was exactly what I wanted, really. Got a couple of craft beers in just in case, you want to just try to make it a bit more premium. The room looks stunning. You need to sell something nice, I think.
Agreed.
And that was sort of the first step. And this is how we then rolled with it. And, it's funny to say that obviously it was nothing new to the bartending world, but for Macau, that was fairly new. We started barrel aging cocktails and people were going crazy about it because, I have seen this somewhere before, but never here in Macau. So, yeah, there you go. So barrel aged Negronis were selling like crazy. So, we sort of established ourselves, I think, in the market in Macau to be one of the prime spots where you should go for a drink. Then we had live band every single day, which is also great. Entertainment was good. I would like to say beverages were good. So we had a good pedigree. Obviously, team changed around also slightly, but I had really strong ladies on the floor, like charming, great service, good bartenders with me in the bar. And it was just a good setup. And lucky us, all that hard work and push sort of resulted into something as well. And it was really nice.
What was the high point of your time at Macau?
We got a lot of guest bartenders in. We tried to arrange for ourselves some guest bartending. Nobody knew us, obviously, so it was quite difficult. So I had to sort of play a bit on my relationships and asked friends, do you think that we can do a guest shift in your bar? Maybe. Please. Just to get the name out somehow. It's can we please? We work for free. And then it was time for the first Asia 50 when I was there. And we were like, it would be insane if we actually be in. The one to watch or... we never thought that that's possible because it's too short amount of time and nobody even knew Macau existed as a place. Mm-hmm. So why would they all in a sudden now do this? But then we got guests from Singapore over that didn't know us, we didn't know them. And they were like, in Singapore they're talking about this bar from Macau. And I was like, you're joking. That's not possible. You're just trying to be nice, But then we never got an email that we are actually in Asia 50. So we thought, okay, it didn't work out. Maybe next year, let's try to push hard. And then the email got lost. So 2 weeks before, somebody said, oh, by the way, we've received a weird email from a company called 50 Best. They say, apparently you're in some list. It's like, you are joking. Booked holidays super fast and that was a great moment. That was actually the work pays off sometimes.
That's
the team flipped completely because we thought it's just impossible.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that when it happens, it also takes time for it to sink in, right?
Yeah. It was at the beginning I thought, nah, this can't be real. There's maybe a mistake or something. I was obviously deep down, I was always hoping that this sort of miracle will happen. And then when it's, as you say, when that's then actually the time, you're like, nah, that can't be. So, but it was, the bar was open for what, 2 years at that time? Yeah, and I was there for 8 or 9 months, I think. So, yeah, it was great, And then, the bartenders there, but they were doing competitions, so they were starting to get recognized in Hong Kong as well, which for us obviously is the closest market. Mm-hmm. So that's the one that we really wanted to sort of capture and attack. And you have to be always quite strategic with these kind of things, especially when you're unknown. You need to get sort of your allies, or you need to convince people. Oh, you know what? Come over to Macau. I'll get you the ferry ticket. Just have a look. And then obviously we've got guest shifts, Antonio Lai, the king of Hong Kong.
Dr. Lai, I wonder if he's still alive.
Yeah.
He was in Singapore here not long ago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's in London soon.
Ah, okay, cool.
Yeah. So it was an amazing ride.
So let's fast forward to London, American Bar. First of all, how did you manage to get the job?
Actually, I received a really cryptic email from Declan once, where like the topic was, I don't even know if I'm supposed to say that. The topic was Eric Lawrence, the name, and then in the email it was just like a one-liner. Let's have a call. And I was like, what is this about? Like because Eric just had a guest shift with us some months before, and I was like, did something go wrong? Like, do I have to justify myself now, or like,
did
something happen or something? Did we poison him? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, I'm free. Let's call that time. So, and I mean, you know Declan, obviously. Yeah. And then we had this call, and I was there. The call lasted a bit over an hour, and I think I recognized in like minute 50 what he was on about. And I was like, what, really? He said, nah, this can't, like, why would that bar contact me? I applied at the American bar when I was 21. When I finished in Germany, I applied in the American bar. Actually, I wanted to because nobody replied to my emails. So I went to London with my CVs, and I literally sat down in front of Eric and was like, I would love to apply here for a job. And he's like, unfortunately, we don't have any right now. I was like, didn't take my CV as well. I don't think that he remembers that, but I remember that pretty well.
What year was that? Do you remember?
Yeah, it must have been the year when I finished my degree in Germany. So what is that? 2010?
Okay, so
right
after the
2011.
Cool.
So basically, when they just reopened, they would reopen possibly half a year or a year by that time. So it was full team. The only job that I could have applied for was waiter in in-room dining.
Oh yeah.
Well, I did that though.
Yeah.
I applied, and apparently, I got a yellow flag on my test. You know, the Vermont test, the scallop stuff that they were doing. Yeah. It's a different one now, but like at that time they were doing this scallop survey, and apparently I got a yellow flag, so they didn't want to interview me. And I was like, well, that's bad.
That test used to be brutal as well. Like,
it was ridiculous, and you were blocked for like 2 years. You couldn't even try to apply again for 2 years.
I remember, like, you had to say either yes or no.
Yeah,
or something
fully agree or fully disagree.
Or
if you put anything in the middle, you're out.
They like people with strong opinions.
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah. So yeah, he got me on a call. Basically shocked me because I was about to sign a contract in Singapore, and then I was like, I spoke to the hotel where I was supposed to start working, and I'm like, look, I just got like the craziest call of my lifetime. I would have to postpone that. And luckily, you know, the person I had the interview with was like, no, like if you get that job, you take it. Like I can wait for another month until, you know, everything is sorted out.
Oh, that's pretty cool though.
Yeah, and then I went through the normal interview process really. Like every single time, every interview I had, and I think I had 6 or 7, every single time I was asked, why didn't you apply? Why didn't you apply? Because like, and I was always saying the same. It's like, for me, I would never think about applying for that job. Because I thought, I didn't even check the website. I saw in the newspaper, newspaper, and I mean online, I saw Eric's leaving, and I was like, I'm curious who they gonna take. Like, who's gonna take that job? You know, tough one. Yeah, good luck to that guy. But I thought they have already someone because I thought, yeah, for sure, Eric gave like a 2 months notice. You know, they have done all their stuff, and there's gonna be like a handover between them. And I was like, okay, they're gonna release this, and then 2 weeks later, they're going to release the information who's going to take. I thought this is fully, you know, this is entire circus sort of is fully planned. Well, apparently it wasn't. And yeah, that's why I never really applied. So I'm very fortunate, obviously, that somebody gave me a call, and that somebody was Declan. And that obviously turned out quite positive for me.
So obviously, like, the feeling must have been incredible. Because now you've been there for a bit over a year, have you?
Yeah, a year and a month, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, what were the challenges that you had at the very beginning? And how did you, like, settle in the team?
I mean, the biggest challenge is to understand that place. You know, I mean, 125 years of history alone in the bar, 130 years of the hotel. Coming there with, I like to say, this sort of mentality that anything is possible, and me working before in bars where I came and I changed everything. I knew that I can't do that there because it will not be accepted. It won't be right as well. So I had to really sort my mindset out before I came, and I think I was very quiet at the beginning. I didn't challenge anything. I asked boatloads of questions. I didn't challenge much, and I just wanted to observe. Declan made a brilliant plan for me. The first 3 weeks I was only on an introduction, so I didn't spend much time in the bar in the first 3 weeks. Okay. I was going through all the departments, was shadowing the managers, and getting to know everyone. Did all the trainings that you have to do with Fairmont and so on, try to get sort of a soft start. Because I think in any job you start there, it is quite overwhelming. The great thing though is that everyone is so ridiculously friendly. So that helps, obviously.
But I've noticed that's a big thing in London, to be fair. I think every hotel I worked at in London, you've got this immediate crazy welcome. While I've noticed that here in Asia, you have to oil the machine a little bit before you get it to work.
Yeah, I think that's part of culture, really. Yeah, you have to prove yourself. Mm-hmm. I think here. Indeed. For me, the hardest one was in Bangkok, in Thailand, because their culture is, incredible, right? And I love it. But start slowly, because I think they like to see that you work for them and with them, and not the other way around. Mm-hmm. And they want to see what's your character. And then if they approve, you get the full support and all the love. Where I think, you're absolutely right. I think in London, it's the other, I don't want to say the other way around, but it starts very open arms. And then maybe if you have a confrontation then afterwards, then it starts a bit, okay, well, let's see how this guy is actually working. You know what I mean?
Yeah, indeed.
So, but yeah, it was an amazing welcome. And I focused really on trying to understand what the team is doing and trying to get to know the team, obviously. Big team, in a tiny space, and so many characters. So many strong characters.
Big personalities, huh?
Very big personalities, and getting to grasp all of that. And then coming in as this guy that nobody knew. But yeah, I think a lot of them would have expected a superstar bartender coming in and just basically leading that bar forward. I think some of them were quite surprised and were a bit, well, let's see what this guy can actually do. Let's see who he is. And yeah, at the beginning, I tried not to do anything that might upset anyone, really. I guess now I'm upsetting a lot of people, but
it's part of the journey, right?
Past my probation, so I'm allowed, I guess. Now, it's looking into the future. Where do we want to go? Who do we want to be? And yeah, the team is young. There's a lot of talent there. And, shaping that team and making it one unit and sort of leading it into the future, that's really the goal. But yeah, it took me, I like to say it took me easy 10 months to grasp everything, to understand, and sort of to make for myself a bit of a plan and saying, look, I think this is the next 12 months, that's going to be my direction, that's what we have to focus on, and then we see what comes next.
I think, though, the fact that you were relatively unknown in the European market when you picked up the position actually worked to your favor. Because I think that regardless of the person who would have replaced Eric, this person would have faced a lot of criticism if he was well known. Not necessarily the person, but maybe the establishment. So I think, getting someone that's relatively well known in Asia, but not as well known in Europe, probably gave you a little bit of a boost at the beginning, right? Because I think it just generated more curiosity rather than criticism, right?
Yeah, I think like everybody was really curious, and you get then all the interviews with like the drinks magazines and so on, and like the questions were all the same. It's like, oh, so who are you actually? like obviously they didn't ask that, but that was basically the context of all the questions. Who are you actually?
Yeah.
Like, what have you achieved so far?
Why?
And why are you here? And I think it makes perfectly sense to hire someone who has no celebrity status, because in the end, and this is part of my journey, obviously understanding the role and understanding the bar, every bartender who has started there needs to make it their own, and all the head bartenders have done that and have made it their own, and over time that's going to be my journey as well, to make this bar obviously never lose who the American bar or what the American bar is. Because it is that, that history, that culture, that feel of classic cocktail culture. You don't want to lose that, but you also can't stand still. So you need to progress in a certain way, but never lose the roots and lose the ideology. I think for me at least that's quite important. I don't want to go into a direction that is just not the American bar.
That place has a lot of challenges because, let's face it, in 125 years of history, they must have had a few years where they weren't top notch. You know what I mean? Like we all know that. And I think
every place has their ups and downs.
Absolutely,
I believe,
agreed, yeah. And just to make sure that you go there and you continue the history, but you just take it through another curve, an upwards trajectory, is actually very challenging, right?
Yeah, I mean, what I really look for example, when it comes to the liquid, right, to the cocktails, I think personally, I do appreciate if somebody makes a drink without a homemade ingredient, without a homemade ingredients, without rotovapping or something. I mean, not that we actually have one, we don't have one, but like, you can create a delicious cocktail with all these amazing products that are nowadays on the market. So, for example, on our menu now, I think we have 3-4 drinks that not a single homemade ingredient, and people love them. So, and I think that's so American bar style, because it is that sort of idea of a maybe classic cocktail or the twist on a classic cocktail, but it is a signature and it is you, and it fits into the concept, it fits there. But then you have drinks that are completely nuts, where a lot of preparation goes into it, but if you get it in the American bar, it's sort of, it fits into the room. It fits into the ideology. It fits into the idea, but it's a really progressive drink. Like modern flavors, using acids, but it could also be just a classic from some time ago. And I think that's quite special. And I think, I like to explain to guests that come for the first time, we explain this idea about the menu, about the music. The bar is so small. 70% of our guests will never see the bar. They will not see how their drink is being made. It's what it looks on the table and how does it feel when you're in the bar. What is your perspective when you sit in the low chairs or in the couches and you listen to this music and you see the room, you see your drink. That is our actual experience. So I like to think when we move now into the future that needs to be our top focus. It needs to be the inclusive experience of walking down the stairs, taking a seat, not actually seeing a bar, don't see a back bar, you can't see a bottle, but this drink then arrives, you listen to the music, you see Johnny on the piano, and you just feel, yep, that's right. And then your server explains to you the story and what is our idea behind this. And that's the experience. I think that's the American bar experience. Like, and I don't say that is the correct, that is the right, that is how it has to be. Because, like, honestly, I go to Luca Cinali and I'm just hypnotized an hour sitting in front of him, not speaking a word, and just had the best evening of my life. Because the guy works like a magician. It's nuts what he does. And I love that as well. And I love the drinks in Oriole that they have created, like how they are presented, but it fits there. I just wouldn't fit in the American bar, really, I think, personally.
No, I totally agree.
And that's why I also say when we do sometimes a masterclass or something, it's why are your drinks looking like that? It's like, it has to fit, and you have to know who you are and who you want to be, and what's your guest, what's your clientele.
Yeah, and to be completely fair, nowadays bartenders are are working with a lot of different flavors and techniques to extract all sorts of different herbs and spices and whatnot. But we live in an era where to make a drink with the bottles that you have in the bar, it's probably the easiest ever, because we have so many products, so many liquors, and we have so many people who are great at doing that for us that we don't need to rottle up angel tears, because probably there is a brand that does that, and they might do it better than you can possibly do it in your bar.
Yeah, and you save so much time,
Exactly, and money.
We're working slowly on some drinks for the next menu, and people are coming forwards with ideas and so on. And like Angelo, one of our senior bartenders, made a drink, and he was like, I need some fruit in there. Like, there needs a bit more fruitiness, a bit more kick. And I was, doing homemade ingredients, like, and so on and so on. And I just had a tasting. Somebody came along and brought me this beautiful liqueurs, and there was this Mandarin liqueur. And I was like, how often do you get Mandarin? Like an actual, not like a Mandarin Napoleon, that sort of old school stuff. So how do you get a genuine Mandarin flavor in a liqueur? Because, I haven't seen it much around, and that one was so good. It was like, just try that. Boom. Fits. You just have to, you don't have to forage ingredients. You have to forage your liqueurs maybe, or you have to forage your products. That's another, like, you don't have to go out and pick leaves and then sous vide them and then afterwards rotovap them and ferment them and then put them all together. Sometimes you just have to forage the right liquid ingredients that is already on the market. Yeah,
not all great drinks need to have 20 hours of prep behind
it.
Yeah.
And what I like to say is also, never forget your classics and never forget your classic specs, because nowadays you see a lot of unbalanced drinks as well. I mean, now that sounds rude. I don't want to say unbalanced drinks, but where you think like, you could have achieved possibly the same result with less, or techniques have been used which I sometimes don't know why. Like, for me, I'm a bit defender of that. Everything needs to fulfill a purpose. If you do something, or if you use a certain ingredients or item or whatsoever, does it actually fulfill the purpose? Because maybe you're just overcomplicating stuff. And getting good classic cocktails these days gets harder and harder as well.
Indeed. I think that's a nice thought to wrap this conversation, which was awesome to talk to you. Last question I asked to everyone: if you could choose your very last drink, what would that drink be? Very last drink. Yes.
I've had to answer that question once before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you're well prepared.
I think, you know what? I would choose a drink that I just got yesterday here in your bar.
Which one?
Death in the Afternoon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if I'm about to die, why don't include that into
that makes total sense
into the drink's name as well.
Thank you so much for finding the time, man. It was awesome to talk to you.
Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed our interview with Maxim. We are Unjiggered_media on Instagram, and you can follow our personal accounts at mmariotti89 for Michele, Alex J. Murphy for myself, and Adrian Bessa for Adrian. Thank you for listening.